short video strategy and framework. Next, we will discuss for core questions regarding short video. Why should we do short videos? Why is short video the best opportunity, without a doubt? Which platform should we choose for short video? What are the specific execution methods for short video? Firstly, let's consider the first question. Why should we do short videos? Short video is one of the best money-making opportunities today. But why is it so important? Why is it considered an unparalleled opportunity? Before answering this question, let's think about the most important factor in a war. Is it the defense of infantry? These goals will serve as the foundation for our subsequent actions. One of the reasons why many people face difficulties in their work and life is the lack of clear goals, which makes it difficult for them to see the future. They may experience confusion and lack of motivation. For example, let's assume there is a sought-after property worth $2 million with a good location, complete facilities, and in a good school district. However, if there is another property sold for $50,000 in 2008, which also requires a down payment to be raised within 2 weeks, would you be able to do it? The answer might be uncertain, and you may find many excuses and reasons to delay. The biggest difference between these two examples is certainty. When the goal is certain, we are willing to pay more costs and make more efforts. When the goal is uncertain, we easily find excuses and reasons to shirk responsibility. Therefore, the decisive factor that determines our actions is our judgment of the feasibility of the matter. If we have high confidence in the feasibility of the matter, we will go all out. If we feel that it is not feasible, we will hesitate. Why do different people make completely different judgments in different situations? It's because their depth of understanding of the problem differs. Some people only see the surface, while others focus on the overall framework. Strategic thinking is the key to creating a gap. It determines whether our tactics will be wavering. Just as students know they should study hard, mere verbal guidance is not enough. Many people realize after years of struggling in their studies that the key issue lies in intrinsic motivation. The same applies to short videos. To succeed in the field of short videos, the most fundamental question is to have clear goals. Without clear goals, there is no motivation to go all out. That's why I emphasize these seemingly useless things. A good teacher should be able to help you solve the problem of setting clear goals, which is the 0th step. The same applies to short videos. To succeed in the field of short videos, the most important question is to have clear goals. I hope that through this explanation, you can realize the importance of goals, because only when you have a clear understanding of your goals can you succeed in the field of short videos. Okay, let's talk about the advantages of short videos. Remember this conclusion. It is the biggest trend in the next 5 years, without a doubt. To explain this question clearly, let's start with 2 pain points. Why is it so difficult to earn money as an employee? And why do many business owners also struggle? Let's first talk about why it's difficult to earn money as an employee. There are 3 reasons: productivity, labor methods, and location. Let's start with productivity. Productivity can be achieved through 2 means: using production tools or utilizing production resources. What are production tools? Having a specific skill, for example, being able to program, repair, and sing. This means exchanging time for returns, which is considered a production tool. Another means is production resources. For example, having a company, owning a house, or possessing intellectual property for self-media. This involves exchanging resources for returns, which is considered production resources. What are the main differences between these two? There are 2: leverage and time value. With production tools, you use your hands to work, while with production resources, you can use machinery to work. Time value is also different. With production tools, your time value is low, as you can only earn a fixed amount for a given amount of time. Whether you earn $50,000 or $5,000 per month, it's essentially the same. If you don't work today, you won't earn money today. However, with production resources, the time value is high. You can earn more for the same amount of time. Production resources can operate automatically and are not entirely dependent on your time. This is equivalent to using production tools. Now, let's talk about labor methods. There are 2 types: physical labor and risk labor. What is physical labor? For example, delivering food or selling physical goods. This involves exchanging physical effort for money. But we need to understand a basic principle, which is determining the price of goods. In the past, people believed that the price was determined by the amount of labor put into it. If you spend more time and work harder, the price of the goods would be higher. If you spend less time and work less, the price would be lower. And sold for £1,000 after 10 years, where did the additional £900 come from? This is known as the diamond water paradox, and Ricardo couldn't answer this question. He used special cases like wine, art, and antiques as exceptions. But later, it was discovered that the real determinant of a commodity's price is opportunity cost. In simple terms, I am willing to spend money because it is the cheapest option among all my choices. In other words, the value of your labor is determined by your alternatives, not how hard you work or how difficult it is. Now, let's look at the characteristics of physical labor: low entry barriers, low risk, and low returns. Because the entry barriers are low, there is a high level of competition, which drives down prices. If there is a cheaper option, customers will choose that instead of yours, resulting in low returns. Now, let's talk about risk labor. What is risk labor? This includes finance and entrepreneurship, where people earn money through judgment and decision-making. The characteristics of this type of labor are high entry barriers, high risk, and high returns. Because of the high risk involved, the entry barriers are high, allowing individuals to enjoy higher returns by keeping competitors out. However, it's important to note that this risk is not absolute. The same task can have different probabilities of success for different individuals. We will discuss this further later on. After discussing the labor methods and why it is difficult to earn a high income as an employee, let's now talk about why many business owners also struggle. Are you willing to give your all? But what if you give your all and make a wrong decision? How do you know if your efforts are directed in the right direction? The premise of being a business owner is judgment. Giving your all only makes sense if your judgment is correct. Every business owner works hard, but the risk is significant if your judgment is slightly off. You may fall into a difficult situation. The second aspect is complexity. Let's talk about the concept of the minimum indivisible function. What is the minimum indivisible function? For example, if you want to turn a bicycle into a motorcycle, can you achieve it by just adding thicker tires, or adding a fuel tank, or changing the chain, or adding an ignition system, or adding a gearbox or an engine or an exhaust system? The answer is no. Each individual addition alone is useless. You must add all of them simultaneously. You can't have too many or too few. And the timing must be right. This is the concept of the minimum indivisible function. You must excel in all these areas. If any aspect goes wrong, the business will suffer, even if it's a small bubble tea shop. Before answering this question, we have to think about a question, which is, what is the key to making money? It is your profit that exceeds your opponents. There are two ways to surpass your opponents. One is tactical ability, that is, you are better than your opponents in this industry. Because people compete with each other, and the excess is profit. For example, if they all make beef noodles, your family has an ancestral recipe, and you can't even copy the taste, then you can make money. There is also strategic capability, which means you can either choose an industry that your opponents don't know much about, because industries also compete with each other, and the excess is profit. So what happens if you have both strategic and tactical abilities? So understand this, let's look at why short videos equal trends. We have 2 points to make about this. The first point is how important it is to choose the right trend. Second point, why is short-term thinking necessarily a trend? Because of how important it is to choose the trend first. Let's look at an example. That is, choosing the wrong trend will lead to exhaustion. This is Olympus exiting the camera business. Let's ask a basic question first. That is, what is the most important factor that determines the image quality of a digital camera? Is it the size of pixels, or is it the performance of the processor, or the aperture shutter? Neither. The most decisive thing is the sensor, just the size of the film. Because we have to talk about this imaging principle. which is to record electrical signals using this sensor. For example, if you have 20 million pixels, you will put 20 million dots on this sensor. In this case, the larger your sensor is, the larger the space it will be allocated to each point. That way, it will be less intrusive and the calculation will be more leisurely. It is also called a negative film that is one level larger and crushes people to death. As a photographer, you know this, right? It's like this boxer in the 90 kilograms category can almost crush the 60 kilograms category. Okay, then the next question is, does the large film size have to be an advantage? No. There is no perfect product. This high image quality will also bring other problems. You see a lot of guns and cannons, such as those used in sports arenas, and cameras with very large film. Another thing is that the body needs to be big. Otherwise, you won't be able to fit this sensor. If the body is larger, it will also bring about the problem of being large and bulky, which will cause problems for home use. For example, who would carry such a heavy thing? And these things are exactly the advantages of smaller negatives. For example, if you take a smaller film, its lens is smaller, its body is smaller, and it is easier to carry. Okay, here's the question. If you were a manufacturer, how would you choose? Should you choose a larger film or a smaller film? Which is the real user need? Please pay attention. This thing must be finalized before you do it, and you cannot change it midway. Once you change it midway, all your previous stuff will be cleared. Let's first popularize the problem of this sensor. M43. Then it went smoothly at first, because there are many loyal fans for such a compact and lightweight product like Olympus. So he solved problems that were impossible in the past. What a necessary progress this is. He wrote a long article, then, until one day everyone discovered a problem. The reflector of the SLR can be removed. What will happen after removing it? Just can't downgrade. Some people say, why not remove it before? Because there are two problems that cannot be solved. One is the power consumption problem, and the other is the shutter problem, which are both immature. What will be the result after removing it? Everyone found that this camera can be made smaller. In the past, you had to install a reflector inside, which would make it larger, but if you remove this thing, hey, it will become smaller, so this will cause a problem. What kind of lens anti-shake sensor is it? 5-axis anti-shake. It's small and lightweight. You don't need to bring a stabilizer when you go out. Until one day everyone found out. Large film can also be used. With large film, I can also make it very beautiful. I can also use various black technologies, and I can also use 5-axis sensor anti-shake. In this way, it is evened out, and the image quality is a crushing advantage. Then everyone discovered that this large negative can be even bigger, and its volume can be smaller. For example, Sigma has launched an ultra-small full-frame film that eliminates the mechanical shutter and makes it almost a sensor, just that big. Fujifilm has launched a medium-format 5th-lens reflex camera, which packs an N times larger sensor into a full-frame body. That is, we switch to the perspective of a frame. But Olympus is still struggling to support it. He is very tough. Let's take a look at the news at that time. Full frame isn't for everyone, and Olympus will stick with the M43 system. Then Olympus withdrew from the camera market, which was what it did at the time. So what's the conclusion? First, let us say that this conclusion is not that simple, because the conclusion we are seeing now is from the perspective of inferring afterwards. It is easy for you to identify various problems from an outsider's perspective. But Olympus's choice at that time was not without reason, because first of all, its main focus was lightness and compactness, and this big problem did exist at the time. But the problem is that he underestimated the power of trends. New technology is not perfect, but it will evolve and mature. Otherwise, once it is perfect, it will have nothing to do with you. Just tell you Eswit, Reverlaws and trends for new things. Their trends are 10,000 times more important than their shortcomings. The power of individuals is not worth mentioning in the face of trends. Any long-term judgment you make should not be based on the trend of the situation, which is to fully consider the power of the trend for a long time and re-examine the matter in a -1 year or 10-year cycle. In other words, if we look at the whole story in the face of this trend, Obama is doomed to fail on the first day he started the trend. Then let's look at short videos next. Why must they be a trend? First, let's look at the principle. There are two problems. The first question is what is wealth? The second question is how to increase wealth. Let's talk about the first question first. What is wealth? Is it gold? Is it oil? Is it a house? No. These are concrete material wealth, human wealth. And wealth can only be found where there are people. The reason why something is valuable is because it has value to us. What ice oil, a theb like garbage he had thousands of years ago. What is a house? They're air houses in the United States that no one wants even $1 for. So what exactly is wealth? It is a consensus, and the more people who agree on it, the more valuable it is. So the second question is, how to increase wealth? Two ways. Part of it is production. For example, you mine oil, you build houses, you dig for gold. This is production. But more of it comes from transactions. For example, you farm, he raises fish, and I weave. We trade with each other to maximize wealth. What is this essence? It's division of labor and efficiency. In other words, most of the wealth in our entire economic system comes from transactions. So understand this. Let's watch the short video again. First of all, it has people, secondly it has transactions, and thirdly it not only has transactions, it is also version 2.0 of transactions. Let's look at the first one first. First of all, has people. Our current leading short video platform has more than 600 million daily active users. You can see that your friends, yourself, your relatives, and your colleagues are all using it. Secondly, you will find that you can't stop scrolling on your phone. I brush it on the sofa, in the toilet, while sleeping, or in a daze. They are all being used in buses, subways, shopping malls, and restaurants. Then you can see millions of likes and tens of millions of views. If you look overseas, TikTok can't find any rivals overseas. And people all over the world are crazy about it. Every country and every race has fallen into it crazily, wherever there are people. Secondly, he has a deal. As of today, this DAW and sound is almost meaningless. It started with short videos, but it has now become an ecosystem. That is, you can watch videos on it, socialize, place ads, run stores, learn knowledge, buy things, conduct massive transactions, and generate massive wealth. The third point is more critical. It is still version 2.0 of trading. I know that version 1.0 is the traditional 1.0 system. The cost of this transaction is too high, the loss is too high, and the efficiency is too low. For example, consumers and producers often cannot find each other. For example, if you want to advertise in reality, you don't know who your precise users are. The advertising money you invest is a waste, but you can't save your part. The same goes for consumers. You want to buy what you need, but you don't know where to buy it. You don't even know what you need. And 2.0 can be based on massive users and big data, which can reduce information costs on a large scale and improve efficiency. For example, it can efficiently connect production and consumption, such as producers, and it can achieve precise delivery based on accurate data to improve results. How much money can I make if I spend $1? He is no longer the kind that he used to try his luck against the false mark. When an article like this was advertised back then, how could I know what your actual circulation was? How do I estimate the effectiveness of that advertisement? I needed to rely on this tool to estimate it at that time. That is, let's use an analogy. What is it now? Before the laser guidance error was plus or minus 20 centimeters. You stretched out your thumb to estimate the relative distance. Then let's look at how consumers are in the 2 o'clock system. Consumers can get whatever they need. Even if you don't know what you need, they can push it to you. For example, there is something called thermal paper. Why do people use correction fluid? When it comes to express delivery, there is no personal information about you on your express delivery order. You want to erase this person's information? What's wrong? Some people say that it would be troublesome if I use that knife to scratch it off. And it would be even more troublesome if you tear it off. You don't have that much time. If you receive 7 or 8 express deliveries a day, you will collapse. For example, if you use a lighter to set it on fire, Aren't you afraid that your home will be burned down? So I came out with thermal paper and correction fluid. Because the thing is printed on thermal paper, you put it on and it disappears immediately, which is very convenient. But you didn't know this existed. Secondly, you don't know this thing is called thermal paper, and you don't even know about correction fluid, but it can push it to you based on your habits and accurately find your needs. This is efficiency. That is to say, if you look at the comparison between the 1.0 and 2.0 systems, it is like the steam engine compared with the internal combustion engine. Its efficiency is earth-shaking, and the wealth will be several orders of magnitude greater. So let's talk about why short videos are a good opportunity for ordinary people. This involves three aspects. One is threshold, one is structure, and the other is security. Let's talk about the threshold first. First of all, having a trend does not mean that you can make money, because there are many trends with high thresholds. For example, if you went to sea to make money back then, what was it? It is the risk threshold. The opportunity cost is too high, the risk of failure is too high, and the price is too high. What about e-commerce online shopping? What are the thresholds? The operational threshold is that even though you are blessed by the internet, you still have to overcome a series of problems yourself. For example, you need to understand e-commerce operations and ranking optimization. You need to do a good job in team building and personnel management. Do you have that knowledge reserve? Short videos are very good. The threshold is very low. It gives countless people a chance to try. You can take a photo directly with a mobile phone. Then let's talk about structure. What we need to mention is what is the difference between the internet and entities. The internet is a bit like a jellyfish. It looks very big, but its structure is very simple. It does not have so many minimum indivisible functions. Generally speaking, you only need to get the traffic flow, and everything will be solved. You see, many giant companies have a very simple technical structure. They just create traffic, and they can monetize the traffic they get. For example, take the internet portals back then, such as Yahoo, NetEase, and Sina. At that time, no one knew how to make money. They just created traffic. What was it like to just engage in physical business? Like a sparrow, it looks small, but its structure is too complex. It has countless minimal and indivisible functions. If there is any problem at all, it will fail. For example, if you open a milk tea shop as small as possible, you won't be able to make much money, right? But if you have problems with quality control, you will fail. If you have problems with personnel management, you will fail. And if you have problems with store location, you will fail. I use a simple sentence. The internet is about finding your strengths. The advantages are big enough. If the traffic is obtained, everything else is easy to talk about. Physical stores are looking for your shortcomings. If there is a problem here, there is a problem here, it won't work here. We can look at an interesting thing, which is why companies with many internet genes cannot handle offline operations. Because its complexity will increase exponentially, it is not your thing. It's the same problem for big companies. What is the internet gene? Just simple. So when it comes to making money safely, there are two ideas. One is more, and the other is less. What is too much? My priority is to earn as much as possible. What I listen thought is, my priority is to pay as little compensation as possible. The short video just fits these two at the same time. It has no top and bottom. What is Stopless? There are some top short video bloggers who can top in a share-listed company. Because it is easy to enlarge and the model is simple, it is not easy to encounter the constraints of various factors. At the same time, he also knows that even if you don't do it, it's just a waste of time and energy. You can trial and error at low cost, no staff space is required, and no large investment is required. What's the final conclusion? The trend is strong. There are many sites. The threshold is low. There is a bottom but no top, which is very suitable for us. Next, let's talk about whether short videos can still be made. First, let's talk about two misunderstandings. One is opportunity, and the other is timing. Someone said there is still a chance. Are there no opportunities for so many people to make short videos now? The so-called opportunities are to look at trends and fundamental factors, rather than looking at various details. Let me give you an example. Let's take the matter of buying a house. Some people didn't buy it in 2002, 2006, 2008, 2016, 2016, and still haven't bought it now. Just because he looks at the numbers every day and thinks, oh, is it too expensive? And what do you really want to focus on? There are three. One is monetary policy. Is money depreciating? And the other is population differentiation. Are more and more people moving to big cities? Another issue is land supply. Is land in the core areas of core cities scarce? Just grasp these 3 points and you'll be fine. The same goes for short videos. What do you look at to see the underlying trends? One is people, the other is time, and the other is efficiency. Where there are the most people, there is the greatest concentration of wealth. Wherever you spend your time, there are the most business opportunities. Whichever method is most efficient will have a larger share in the future. It's such a simple truth. Now let's talk about timing. People say, oh, isn't it a little late to do it now? It may be said that this short video has been released for so many years, and now it is done. Did you catch the last train? Let's put it this way, the so-called timing is neither the earlier the better, nor the later the better, but the clearer the path, the better. If you do it too early, the rules will be unclear, the risk will be too high, and there will be too many unknown factors. If you are lucky enough to have an opportunity, you will not know where there are swamps or traps. You have to rely on the lives of the front rushers to find a way. There were a lot of people dying in the front, but later I slowly discovered that it turned out that you couldn't walk in that place, and that was how you walked. If you look at the first pioneers in most fields, they are basically dead. Yin Highway, who was the first to do the internet, died. One of the first areas to try Weibo died. And the first batch of internet celebrities on Da and all died. What was wrong with everyone that night? It's very intuitive. After all the meat is divided, you can only drink some soup. In fact, most industries are like this. Most people only realize it later. Others have already entered and made money, and then they all come out. They rush into the Red Sea and suffer all kinds of hardships. So what is the real timing? The trend is gradually becoming clear. But when most people are still clueless, everyone is using shovels. You are studying how to build a machine, and then you drive an excavator and rush in. This is a good time. We are sure that short videos are the future, but most people are still immersed in various details and are completely unaware of the power of the framework. That is to say, if you set up the framework of this short video, you can surpass 99% of people. When the opportunity becomes clear, you can run further than others. Next, let's take a look at the past, today, and future of short videos. What was the past of short videos like? Diane is purely for entertainment and has no purpose. I don't know how to monetize it, and I don't know what the use of this thing is. I had several team building meetings back then, and we were discussing one question. Should I make a short video? He doesn't know what kind of garage girl she was back then. Gucci to Prada, right? Take off your coat. Take off all kinds of gesture dance, right? You don't know how this thing can be monetized. You don't know. Today, you find that this ecosystem has begun to take shape, and the content has begun to gradually change. For example, it will be more beautifully produced. The content will be more in-depth. There will be more and more celebrities and scholars, and all kinds of knowledge will be more and more nutritious. And you will find that its business closed loop is gradually improving. For example, you can take classes at school, you can buy things in the mall, you can do this salary distribution. You can also add fan groups, or you can do local promotion, you can do it all. The business closed loop is still gradually improving, so what will it look like tomorrow? That must mean that the ecosystem is stable and mature, and subdivided areas are the general direction. There are two reasons for this. On the one hand, its users have reached a bottleneck, which will inevitably lead to internal competition and differentiation. In this case, low-quality content will become larger and larger in the future. On the other hand, users' time is becoming more and more expensive, and the demand for personalization is getting higher and higher. In this case, large and comprehensive things will get bigger and bigger, and they will become more subdivided, and more vertical things will be the future. My previous video called, "What's the future of live streaming?" It says the same thing. You can take a look. Let's make a prediction and predict the future of live streaming. Only by predicting the trend can you make money by taking advantage of the trend. Many people saw the live broadcast making money and rushed in. Hey, wait a minute, you are going in the wrong direction. Live streaming can make money, but you can't make money by rushing in because you are late. It's like if you want to intercept a missile, it's useless to aim at its current position. By the time you rush over, the missile is no longer there. If you want to hit it, you have to trace forward, predict the trajectory, and know its next step. Where to go. The same goes for live streaming. You have to understand the economic laws, be optimistic about the trends, stand at the forefront, and then wait for the win to come. So how to do it? Taking history as a guide. You can clearly predict the future of live streaming by simply referring to history. To be more specific, let's look at cars. What were the main demands of people buying cars 20 years ago? A car, as long as it has four wheels and can drive. As for whether this car is comfortable, how many airbags it has, whether the rear seat can cross its legs, whether the passenger has a vanity mirror, it doesn't matter at all. As long as it's a good car. At that time, you had only 3 choices when buying a car: Jetta, Santana, and Fukang. But look at today, there are more than 100 brands and more than 1,000 models. You have zoned air conditioning, someone gives you seat massage, someone gives you surround sound, countless choices, countless configurations, and even the same car has 2 brother models. It is difficult to choose. Why? Because the off-segmented needs, there is never an abstract person in marketing. Only specific portraits of men, women, old people, and children. And the needs of each portrait are different. As the automobile industry becomes more and more mature, it must develop in depth and into subdivided industries to satisfy each subdivided area. This is true for any industry. As long as it continues to develop, it will eventually extend to countless market segments without exception. For example, the portal website back then, the Young Sao. Why was it so popular? Because back then, it was good if you could access the internet. When you opened a US domain name, it was as if you had arrived in Washington. At that time, many people didn't even know that surfing the internet did not require a surfboard. At that time, if you could touch a computer and type, you would be extremely happy. Life is complete and there is nothing else to ask for. Then the novelty wore off and everyone calmed down. Some girls like to watch beauty products, boys like to watch photography, young mothers want to watch parenting, young dads want to choose cars, and middle-aged and elderly people want to watch healthcare. At this time, the portal website is not unsatisfactory, but it is obviously not enough. So what's next? Vertical portals, beauty portals, photography portals, parenting portals, car portals, etc. At this time, you will find that the portal is very embarrassing. They can go into every segmented industry, but if they do every one of them, it means they have not done well in every one of them. Once the power is dispersed, it will be impossible for him to do well in every industry. So at this time, the opportunity for vertical portals emerged. For example, Babytree, Zhongyuancun Online, Auto Home, etc. If you look at Sina Auto or Sao Parenting, they will always be tepid and half dead. So if you go back 10 years ago, what was your best chance? It is to be a subdivided vertical portal. This is aiming at the future. The same is true for live streaming. You see many top anchors, such as Li Jiaqi and Wei Ya, who can make billions per game. But there is nothing to be afraid of. Because they are all extensive. That is, I sell everything. One not only sell lipstick, I also sell diapers, I also sell self-heating pots. I also sell air conditioners. I also sell juicers. I also sell crayfish. I also sell sneakers. I also sell nutritional products. I sell everything. But the problem is that the more things you sell, the harder it is to control your quality. The more diluted your IP is, and the less precise your positioning becomes. Being a consumer. When their needs become more and more personalized, their time becomes more and more precious. And when they become less and less sensitive to this live broadcast delivery, you will no longer be able to satisfy them. If he wants to buy steak, It is best to have a steak blogger who has eaten beef from all over the world. If he wants to buy red wine, it is best to have a red wine blogger who has tasted red wines from all over the world. If he wants to buy diapers, it is best to have a parenting blogger. He has tried diapers all over the world. This is truly accurate matching, which solves reliability, time cost, and comprehensive price comparison. I bought from you because you know better than anyone else in this industry and can help me save money better than anyone else. I no longer need to wait in the live broadcast room for you to launch the product, and I no longer need to spend hours trying my luck. Consumers' time is very expensive, and it will definitely become more and more expensive. This is a trend. So if you are optimistic about live streaming and plan to start your own business, then you must find a niche area that you are best at. Now, immediately, start preparing.